But how many guys do we know actually like going after single mothers? Like, it seems like that's still like, you know, you can be like the single mother's now empowered or whatever, but like most single mothers are gonna have a harder time in the dating market than non-single mothers.
Of course.
Yeah, and then I also want to like bring up an interesting study that I remember reading that was basically women do select for higher money, higher salary, but men also select for like higher education when it comes to women, interestingly enough. And I think that goes back to this whole idea that like
men generally select for beauty and fertility and
yeah,
youth,
but
mostly.
Yeah,
they select for money too now.
Yeah,
Usually.
okay, but a lot of them also select for higher education. And I think when it comes to like these highest like socioeconomic classes, yeah, you have some men like balling out, like flying out the Starbucks barista, whatever. But I think a lot, especially when it comes to old money, still have like these values in place of like, no, you have to have a proper lady from the proper background because you want to raise proper children.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Okay, then ask yourself, who's their mistress?
I mean,
Let me ask you this. Let me ask both of you. And let me ask you, if that's the case, if you honest to God think that, why is the marriage rate at 5.1 per 1,000? Why aren't guys just lining up around the fucking block to
People
get
give up on each
right
other
now?
too fast.
Why is it? Why, if it's going to make you happier and healthier and all this great stuff that comes after, we're all selecting for, well, we just want the best and we're vetting for intelligence and IQ and education level and everything. Why is it at the lowest recorded level in history? And don't say it's because of the last 5 years of the red pill.
Because people
I was going to say that, like, I was going to say there was this whole, like, you know, historical, like, or, you know, throughout society, this very strong idea that that's what you have to do. That's what you have to get. You have to get married to be happy. And I think a lot of people that were not in financially stable situations, that were in all sorts of different situations, got married when they weren't stable. And when, guess what, the opportunity to divorce came up, they took it. I think when you look at higher...
I can speak to that right now. And this was more to your point, Liv. First, somebody asked me this later on, like what, like in the 60s, and hormonal birth control. One stat that tracks almost identically with the rise of use of hormonal birth control is the divorce rate, right from 1965 through 1975. It is, okay, I know correlation is not causation, but that is one fucking hell of a correlation.
So why has the marriage rates been, why have the divorce rates been the same for a while?
Yep.
Why have the divorce rates not continued? Like, why have they been pretty steady?
Because nobody's getting married.
Well, so and you were asking why, and I think our cultural like conception towards marriage has changed. The narrative around marriage.
Because we have one invention that turned the human race upside down,
That's
which is
your
we
opinion.
gave the human reproductive process solely over to one sex, unilaterally to one sex. Not only with hormonal
cool
birth
story.
control, but also with free and available abortion. Those are the two inventions really that happened, by the way, in that same decade right there, that essentially, I've said this before, is that it was more damaging to the human race than the atomic bomb. Okay, it has changed more about human society than anything else. So look at all the things that track between 1965 and 1975. You have what happened in 1971. We go off the gold standard. What happened in 1968? We have the no-fault divorce, which of course the conservatives, which I disagree on, say that the problem with society right now is because we have no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce was meant to facilitate all of the divorces that have been happening as a result of hormonal birth control. So now you've got to have societal changes, legal changes, political changes. Now women have to get back into the workforce. Why? Because now they're single and they don't have to marry and they don't have to fuck beta males to make sure that they've got the beta buck side of hypergamy settled, which is provisioning, protection, and parental investment. Now I can have sex and I don't have to marry this bum because I don't have to worry about getting pregnant accidentally. So what happens? As soon as women have the ability, and this, by the way, this is the first time in human history that we have an invention that says you can have sex without having to worry about anything about pregnancy, and only one sex gets to control that.
I mean, the other thing that kind of in that time frame is women being able to work for themselves and enter the workforce.
Right, and the reason why they had to is because they were all getting divorced because they needed to support themselves.
Wait, no. You see the rates of like women being able to enter the workforce like basically around World War II, right? The men were out of the country.
No, they all came back. They all came back from the factories.
Yeah, they all came back to the factories. And guess what? Women, guess what? They came back from the factories, and women, you see like the second, third wave feminist movement coming in full swing, saying like, hey, we were able to work before. We were able to gain some sort of like financial stability.
In 1968,
we don't want
right
to lose
as the
that.
sexual revolution was in swing.
But you're basically attributing this to sexual revolution. What I'm saying is that this is more of like I guess financial revolution more than anything else.
Yes, which
Women had economic freedom.
They could not have facilitated were it not for the hormonal birth.
So you're
women
taking a
already
correlation and putting a causation.
There's something called a condom.
Women had economic freedom before
Bless your soul.
birth control. That's what I'm trying to say. The push for women's economic freedom happened prior to birth control. It seemed like the second that women were able to start bringing like finances into the household and started to gain a bigger salary, this was already a motion put in place.
I can show you stats right now where the GDP or the real income for families stays the same, but productivity goes through the fucking roof right around 1971. Why is that? Because we have more women in the workforce. We have no-fault divorce. We have the going off the gold standard. Oh, and then, by the way, women who weren't allowed to have credit cards up until about 1974, that wasn't as a result of feminism like coming in there. It was because we didn't have to worry about it anymore because we have fiat currency now. So the credit, so ladies, you need credit cards because now you're going to be single, you're going to be taking care of kids, and you're going to be divorced. And now you're also in the workforce. As a result, you see real wages flatline, but you see productivity go through the roof. Because what we've done is we put women into the workforce, but we haven't really seen that translate to real wages. We see it translate crazy in productivity.
Wait, so you're saying men have been, you guys have flatlined, but we're going up.
Women and men have flatlined. Productivity goes up. Because if you go and you look at, I'm working on this, like it's almost a small book on 1971 right now. So if you look at the societal changes from in the post-sexual revolution society, which by the way we're still in right now. If you look at from 1965 to 1975, just that decade, and you look, we have no fault divorce, we have abortion happens then, we have the rise of hormonal birth control, we have divorce rates skyrocket, we put more women into the workforce. We look at Title IX happens right around then. If you look at all of those, you can track every single thing that we talk about here when it comes to gynocentrism or comes to feminism. All of those stats, they trace back to one fucking year, and it's 1971.
Well, so you're saying women, because I mean, like Reeves even talks about this, how our wages have gone up and your guys' haven't. You're saying that's not true.
I would say that's only in recent times because more and more, because then now we have finally got past. Oh, I should also add fertility rate. Fertility rate has been below replacement level since the mid 70s as a result of this as well. So all these people banging a gong about fertility rate, you should have been talking about that in the mid 70s. But as far as wages,
you're saying
so
women's wages
you have more women in law, you have more women in psychology, you have more women in enrollment, but also far more women graduating because men are tending to drop out because they don't see any point. There's no incentive for them to do it anymore. Because prior to the sexual revolution, men's means to getting sex was to be a good provider, to have a good job, to have provisioning, protection, and parental investment. That's what they could rely on. Now, women don't need a man, but they want a man.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's why, like, if you like with Reeves and stuff, he talks about this too. We need to flip the education. It's a really bad thing that men are not getting educated, that men are dropping out.
This is no fun. She's agreeing with us, dude.
Yeah.
We should just move on.
So here's the difference between my take and Reeves' take is he sees this as some sort of social construction problem. It's not. It's a naturalistic problem. The machine hasn't changed since 200,000 years. Okay, so to say, oh, we need to flip. We need women to be more attracted to guys who are these weesh beta male, douchebags because they need more love. 80% of guys are deemed unattractive. How can we get more women to lower their standards so they can get with these 80%ers? That's not going to happen because of the way that the machine is built for men and women.
Do you believe in evolutionary psychology? Can we clarify that right now?
Yes.
Like,
I mean, I wouldn't say it's the strongest because it's top-down reasoning.
What would you say is stronger?
I mean, like if you're looking at a study like observational, when there's like actually a control group, all that, you can't do that with evolutionary biology or psychology,
right.
Which is why there's a lot of disagreement, even when it comes to human mate. Like serial monogamy seems to be the most successful mating strategy for us, but there is disagreement. Like there's.
Go ahead, you guys need to get in.
I feel bad for everything.
I'm curious, do you think there is a crisis in dating? Do you think there's an inequity?
What do you mean inequity?
So for instance, a small group of men, and I'm not saying 20% of men are fucking 80% of women, but a small group of men, like say 30% of men are having sex with like 65% of the women.
No, I don't think that's borne out by the data. That's only borne out by Tinder swipes and swiping. But when you look at the data, it doesn't seem that's
okay. Well, let's go from beyond the data. Let's look at the enormous amount of men that are addicted to porn. Let's look at the enormous amount of men that don't necessarily approach women anymore. You got women approaching this, and this is where you got to kind of take the stats and then also take common sense and look at like everything else. Hold on, stop. You got to look at the totality of the circumstances. Stats give you one picture, and then it's up to you to use critical thinking to establish the other picture. If guys are getting laid and they're fucking women, they're not going to be watching porn most of the time.
Then why
But
that's
tell
not
me
true?
why there's an enormous amount of men that have debilitating addictions to pornography. Matter of fact, you benefit from it significantly. You make a significant amount of money off of your OnlyFans. You would not be able to do that if men were actually getting laid.
Well, then how come there was
Your
that
own
recent...
success is contingent upon men not
Yes,
getting
but
laid.
there was
But
a
that's
recent
not true.
study on like, yeah, you're probably talking about what I'm
Yeah,
talking about. The
90%.
demographics, 90 or something % of men on OnlyFans are married. So how are they lonely
Can I
losers?
just say-
Because they're not having sex.
They're not having sex.
You're saying
Marriages are so
they're
common, man. Like,
Can I say one thing?
do you realize, ladies, that so many guys are in marriages where their woman doesn't want to fuck them anymore?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't want to like expose my friend or anything, but she has
Do it.
sex with her boyfriend every single day. She does everything with him.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be like specific, but he
We
still
probably won't know who
he
they
still
are. It's
he still
fine.
jerks off to porn 3 times a day, regardless of having sex.
And
Yes.
he's
Okay.
18
Yeah.
years old.
But
That's
well, yeah,
that's
no,
an incredible sociological survey right
He's
there.
26. He's 6
No,
years
I
older
guess
than
what
her.
my issue is
Wait,
the
can,
lonely.
can I argue for something very
again-
quickly? Like, I think the idea of like, oh, you know, porn addiction comes from a lack of sex is not necessarily true or congruent. And the reason why I would argue this is because porn addiction is basically just like sexual gratification on the constant, right? You could be having constant. It's basically another form of sex addiction, in my opinion. Because when you're having a sex addiction, you want to constantly get off, and it's the same thing with a porn addiction. You're constantly looking
Yeah, but
for
way
that
more people
short-term
have a porn addiction
gratification.
than a sex addiction.
That's fair.
I mean,
That's
it's
fair.
like 100 to 1. Like, it's not even close.
But the point that I'm trying to get across is that you could still be having sex with
You-
other people and
you-
still have
you-
a porn
you-
addiction.
You could be, but the issue is
Yeah.
we have all these.
you guys are fantastic at like isolating certain things versus again looking at the totality of the circumstances.
Well,
Just common sense. Let's just use some common sense. Why has dating content exploded over the past couple of years? Why has there been more men reporting loneliness and depression?
Yes.
Why are most men single? Why are so many guys addicted to porn? Why are so many guys struggling to get dates? Why do so many men fail on Instagram with DMing girls? Why do so many guys strike out when they talk to women? Why do most guys get rejected? If you look at the totality of the circumstances, it's very obvious
Why
that
are
a
we?
minority.
My point is, why are we here? Why is there a Fresh and Fit?
Yeah,
why are his books best
I
selling?
understand
Why do
that.
I have 2,700
but see,
clients?
like when it comes to porn addiction, one, it's super misunderstood. I would look at Dr. Nicole Prouse, UCLA a neuroscientist. No, moral incongruence seems to be a huge factor when it comes to porn addiction. It's not even considered an
Okay,
addiction by the
that's
APA or
one
the
thing.
DSM-5.
That's fine, but what I'm
That's
saying
one
is
thing.
that's one thing. Then the friendless thing is another
The
thing.
friend listing is a huge thing. I
for
agree
sure,
with that.
for sure.
Yeah.
But then there's Scott Galloway talking about the inequity of dating, and then Chris Williamson today talking about 50% of
one
men
thing
dropping
I
out of
agree
dating.
with you,
Hold on. And then the people watching this, and all the other content with millions of people watching, and Andrew Tate becoming the most Google person in the world, and me, my little ass getting 2,700 clients, and his books being bestsellers. At some point, something is fucking broken. 30% of men on dating apps or on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge are fucking married. Something is broken.
Yes, I understand that. And like, I don't know if you guys, I recommend everyone read Johan Hari's Lost Connections. I do agree with you. Actually, social media, it seems, social media does seem to have contributed to a lot of these issues, especially when it comes to loneliness
But there are
for
issues.
everybody.
But there
I
are
agree
issues.
there are issues. I just don't think there's prevalent.
Because before they cited the 2018 study, and you're saying it's not that high. And what I'm telling you is that it's definitely damn near close, if not spot on, because when you look at all the other factors and use critical thinking, look at the explosion of dating content for men, look at the meteoric rise of Andrew Tate world fucking wide, right? Because he's saying things that are very basic, but a lot of guys have not been able to express.
You have to understand, like literally, like Andrew, what is his name? Date Psych, whatever his name is. His entire existence comes from trying to go against what people in this space are saying. He wouldn't even exist if there wasn't a problem.
I agree with you, and I'm not disagreeing that there has been like, I agree with like Reeves, right? There has been an attack, quote unquote, on masculinity. Now I agree with him also that this type of content is not the best solution, but I'm not saying that there isn't a problem. But we're also like, oh, look at all these people watching this. Well, yeah, it's like being in a hospital and being like, look at all these sick people. Yeah,
but like David Buss doesn't go on Joe Rogan. There is no Scott Galloway talk. Like this entire thing, like we aren't even paying attention to it if it isn't a thing.
I agree we should. That's why I read Of Boys and Men. I'm not a boy, but I care about this. And I do think that, and I like how he put actual policy proposals.
The point I'm trying to make is that there is an overwhelming... Hold on, guys.
Based on social
because you were trying to make the argument before. You're not going to necessarily have stats for everything. What I'm trying to say is there's absolutely an overwhelming amount of men that are fucking clueless and not getting laid. That's a fucking fact.
That's true, but I don't think
that's a fact.
Okay, so you're arguing to
Go
argue.
ahead.
Real quick, you had a question, but before you said a question, by the way, your friend's pussy's trash. That's why. Go ahead.
All right, so
Goddamn.
what I really wanted to say was the dating
times a day?
pool. The bottom line is the dating pool is in shambles right now, and I feel as though women are trying to be men.
The men they wanted to marry.
So now the men are no longer wanting to play their role. Long story short, just
They're not
keep it a buck.
incentivized to play
How
the
do you
role.
feel
And
about
to
it?
add on to that, I agree with her. I think female promiscuity added to that and made more simps.
Question for you for dating. What do you think is the problem? They just mentioned women trying to be men, but what do you think?
I think it's both sides. I think men need to be better men. I think the world has become more like convenient and easy and
Yes.
instant gratifications and all that. So I think men also, we don't need to just tell women like, oh, y'all should lower your standards. Everybody should raise their standards on both sides. So
Besides dating criminals, what about you? What do you think?
I agree with them.
Nah, come on, something original.
I really do agree with them. I think that like now women are trying to be men. They're trying to take the higher role, and I just don't think a guy would want a woman who's doing all that because
Women have
what's
become the men that they
point of
wanna
him-
marry.
Yeah, what's the point of him doing what he's supposed to be
Well,
doing?
you know what I think it is? I feel like the reason why this debate keeps going is because. Oh, sorry.
Merch.
I just got dunked on. That was on me. I got that one. Is because we're describing two sides of the same coin, right? There's more women in the workplace. That means there's less marriage and a lower rate of fertility and more divorce. There's more women in the workplace. That's great because it has more freedom for women to leave bad relationships. You're saying the same thing statistically. It's just what you're saying is these things are good and this is great. Go ahead.
Women act off emotion, so I think.
Got it. Yes. I'm
agreeing with you.
Yeah. Well, when it's another thing. Women acting on emotion. It's just like two sides of the same coin. Because you're more progressive. The egalitarian nature of what's happened in the last couple of years. You're like, that's worth it. It's worth it to have a lower fertility rate. It's worth it to have fewer people getting married. And our side is saying, well, no, that's actually bad.
So why then are the most educated people, which academia leans left, right? Why are they the ones getting married more than before and everyone else is getting married less? Why are the least educated people?
What's going on here?
Why are the least educated people getting married less and the most educated people getting married more then?
Because they're incentivized to do so socioeconomically. It's better for them to get hell, everybody says, oh, you're going to be happy, you're going to be better off if men make more money when they're married, right? And the other thing is they're not. We're still at the lowest fucking marriage rate in recorded history.
So what you're saying is educated people get married more, and what he's saying is just people in general getting married less.
I agree with that, and I would also say that I would also say there are like religious, cultural reasons for that. We're becoming less religious as a society. We're culturally becoming.
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it has to do with the machine itself.
And also, one other thing too, because you were saying that women just have the ability to leave shitty relationships. What I would say, because we got to define what a shitty relationship is. For most women, that's going 50-50, which is what you prescribe, which is what you want. But most women don't want that, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think what I'm saying is that women who are divorcing men, I don't think they're doing it, which is why college-educated women are less likely to do it, to get into that situation in the first place. They're with these men. A lot of women are with men because they provide for them financially, and the women who aren't with them for any other reason, like they actually love them, when they get that financial incentive, they're more likely to leave a man that they don't love. But if you love somebody, you don't just get divorced because you made money.
Which again goes back to the point we were making earlier. Like, she does have validity in what she's saying, and the point that she's talking about the average everyday guy. And the whole premise of this podcast is teaching men how to become high value men. That's why you guys are on here. That's why the guests who are on this panel are here, because we're trying to make a point of difference.
So what percentage of men can be high value? Because they can't make if everyone's high value, then no one's high value. So the majority are still not going to be high value.
16%.
Okay.
No, 1.5 standard deviation.
It's not even just being high value. It's about, because not everyone's going to be high value, but everyone can understand female nature.
Let me see if I can put this in. Let's see if I can put this in.
1.5 standard deviation.
She will not stop. Hold on, real
60%.
quick. Philly, I want to hear your take on this.
So you said that higher educated people and people that make more money get married more often, correct?
No, they're getting more. They're the only ones whose marriage rates are going up, and everyone else's is going down. That's what I'm saying. I don't actually think
So that's pretty much what I said. So
Kind of.
let's be honest here. Most people in the United States don't have even $1,000 to set aside. Let's be real. People who are middle class or lower poor, they can't get married. So I feel like you're basing your facts and figures off of people who can afford to get married to condense their finances, who aren't at risk for financial ruin because of any sort of like medical issue or anything like that. You're looking like it's not necessarily about choice. A lot of times it can be about ability, and I feel like that's a factor that you're not taking
Yeah,
into
that's why
account
people
here.
are getting married later. So the average homeowner age has gone up significantly recently. You're right, and that's why that 18 to 25 age range, a lot of my guys are having less sex. They're getting married less. Adolescent risk behavior has gone down like on almost every metric in that age group, because you're right. It's harder to be more financially stable and ready. But for a lot of cultures all throughout, like, you would get married. Just getting married was just part of the norm,
And
especially in a certain age.
Also, on the show, we recommend men not to get married in the state. So it means, for example,
By the
the
state,
church,
by the
sorry,
state, you're saying, yeah, by the
so
state.
by church, it's
Legally,
great, but legally, you don't want to be married legally. Real quick, what's your stance on this as well for dating?
So I think that, sorry, there's just been a lot.
I know.
Just
You
to
can
bring it
untangle
back
it
to
and-
the whole prefrontal cortex thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, it's just to bring it back to the prefrontal cortex thing. Yes, at 25, your prefrontal cortex is developed, but that doesn't mean that you've done the things, like you've been healthy enough for it to be fully developed properly. And if it's not properly developed, you're actually not good at making decisions. And it's actually more teens are drinking more, drugs, sex, and when you introduce that stuff at a younger age, you're not going to have a fully developed
So
prefrontal
you should
cortex.
wait even longer, sure.
W Queen. W
No,
Fresh.
that means that at an earlier
W
age, you need
Fresh.
to not be pressured by outside world, because I think that the reason why people do drugs, alcohol, and that kind of sex is because they think it's cool.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah,
a
but
culture.
that's not-
I
that's
don't
not-
drink. I've never been drunk
but
in my
that's-
life,
that's
so I
not-
agree
yeah.
with you. Alcohol and drugs, bad idea. We agree there.
But that's not but that's not going to change though. The idea, like, we need to get off this idea that, you know, we need to get off of TikTok and get into the real world. The real world now includes TikTok.
So how do we
It now
navigate
includes
around
Instagram.
that, basically?
It's not going away. From
So what we need to
Wait.
do is express we understand we are living in a time of an evolutionary mismatch, and we have been since the advent of fucking
Genetic gap.
antibiotics and nuclear warfare. We've been in
I
evolutionary
think
mismatch.
the only thing you can really do is identify the problem and adapt off of the identified
Yes.
problem.
Yes.
And what I would say here, controversial take, I think feminism is a big part of the problem for a lot of things. I think there's a strong argument that inflation is directly tied to feminism, and the reason for that is because you used to be able to sustain a family on one income when men work. Then once women enter the workforce, you effectively double the workforce. Well, guess what? Employers can now pay half as much as they did before because now they have twice as many employees.
Well, as
So-
Reese said on your show, we've
ahead.
also brought in trillions of dollars to the economy since the 1970s just because women entered the workforce.
And it's also
in a normal
racist
person's
standards.
pockets now?
Well, here's the thing. Women don't really do productive. Here's the thing. Women don't really do. If I'm going to be honest here, women don't really do jobs that contribute to society and infrastructure.
Okay, so you just disagree with that step then?
Yeah. I mean, women dominate a lot of useless jobs. You know what I mean?
Would you call teachers and healthcare providers?
They ruined
useless?
education.
That's one of the few components that
I feel like
they
that's like-
dominate. That's like helpful for society. But in general,
Facts,
men
facts.
run all the jobs that keep society going.
So lawyers
and
are almost
infrastructure.
50-50.
caregivers
Doctors are
are
almost 50-50
Wrong.
now.
Lawyers are almost like 85
No,
right
look it
now.
up. Look it up. Look it up.
I just saw it.
It's
a couple
like
days
60 to
ago.
70. It's
Way
60 to
more.
70, something like that,
Psychology
right?
and law are just it have been this way for the last 15 years. There are
Right.
far more women in
Oh,
law
you're saying
and
more
in
women. Okay,
psychology.
I thought you were saying it.
Yeah.
Even in banking and finances, it's actually more skewed towards
Far
women
more.
nowadays.
Okay.
Like, there are so many industries that are more skewed
So you're
towards
saying
women.
lawyers don't contribute to society?
No,
I know, but
I'll happily say that.
Forget
Lawyers are useless. I'll happily.
Well, here's the other thing too. You got to remember.
Shout
if
out
you
to
look
James
at,
Sexton.
It's not just okay. Someone being a lawyer and then a practicing attorney are two different things. Because there's a lot of people that I passed the bar. I'm a lawyer, but they're not actually employed.
yeah, so so
And a lot of them are
I'm-
females.
Yeah, I'm one of those. But in general, still, but even practicing attorneys, it's almost 50-50. And so those women, or even doctors, are getting really close to 50-50. Practicing physicians, you're saying those women.
Most of the population isn't a doctor or a lawyer, though.
I understand, but you were saying that women are doing jobs that don't contribute, and I'm saying that some of these top professions that are doing a lot of contributing are almost half women.
That's cool. That's cool, but that's a minority. I'm talking about infrastructure, keeping the world going.
Yes.
I mean,
Okay. Real
all these.
quick,
Okay.
real quick, we're gonna do girls ask questions because they have not
Yeah.
have a turn to speak at all.
Yeah, bro.
But let's do some chats real quick because they've been waiting as well too.